Shannon Barnhill, 8099 Hart Road. I have 3 sons, the oldest of which just completed first grade at Ridge Elementary. When he was in kindergarten, his friend came over to play, and as we discussed being enrolled in Mentor, the mother told me that her older daughter would be leaving Memorial at the end of the year because she was, quote, exhausted from trying to fly under the radar. And I was very confused because I'd never heard of a preteen who didn't want to be seen or acknowledged. Fast forward to this year, and now I understand, because I too am exhausted from trying to navigate the current academic climate of this school system. As a family, we are usually the type to let those around us live their lives as they see fit unless it is forced upon us. I do not look for fights or causes anymore. I'm not trying to storm any castles. I left that in my youth. I just want to set a good example and let my children enjoy every moment they can of their childhood before they are forced to understand the intricacies of the adult world. Unfortunately, the chaotic discord of this board is negatively impacting even good, moderate families like our own. When it came to our time at Ridge, we were always willing to volunteer or donate items, and I've accepted every single opportunity to be involved in my child's education. But the ability to monitor my child's access to items within the classroom and to take home that I don't believe align with our family's desire to protect their innocence is being taken from our control. Your vote tonight will either further that damage or protect our children. For example, my 5-year-old son brought home historically accurate books about World War II because he loved airplanes. He didn't need to see the graphic photos of the war and full chapters on Hitler at 5 years old. He would have been just as content with a book showing basic pictures of airplanes. And I wouldn't have had to carefully turn each page of the book. He so excitedly brought me home to show me, ultimately giving him 2 tiny little pictures of planes and then sending it back. There are plenty of items we could show our kids, but why should we show our kids? What is the rush? Why are we providing in-class materials to complex issues that could be easily misconstrued at such a young age, without notifying parents of what is available to their child? While I never expected this to be our path, due to policies passed by this board and the overall feeling that the board's primary interest is in providing academic experiences based on social issues instead of academics, we as a family have decided to pull our children from inner schools and homeschool them with help from the local growing community like us. I understand you receive a lot of feedback. I do as well in my position with a nonprofit, but let me be clear. You are so aggressive in your push to include that you are losing the moderates. At this rate, you will have nothing left but ashes from this district burnt to the ground. Please find a way to come together for the good of the children instead of the good of yourselves. You can start by continuing to allow greater parental access or greater parental accessibility to our own children's reading materials.
I would like to reference the agenda items related to the policy changes and stuff. I just want to express my disappointment with the decision, not only that we retain sexually explicit materials in our schools, but now we're making the decision to do away with the parental notification of sexual content in those books. It's very obvious that the policy that you swore in just several months ago was never meant to last. Since Mrs. Payne proposed it, and because she's not one of the left extremists, it was inevitable that this was doomed. Just more evidence that this board cares neither for the students nor the parents. As for book donations, it was also inevitable that this would end. Far be it for patriotic, family-loving community members to try and provide wholesome books for young minds. But of course, there will never be room for anything other than extreme leftist material for the students, as that is all that Maggie, Ginny, and Lauren will permit. The board tells us that they need money, but when everyday folks offer to help purchase some books to help balance out the selections that are currently in the library, suddenly they don't need that kind of money. And as our superintendent said, there's never going to be conservative material being allowed in because the board is so far left. We're never going to have a fair and balanced plan from our schools because the board is led by extreme leftists who want to see the destruction of our families, destruction of traditional moral values, and our American way of life. Whatever the conservative side proposes or recommends, it's never going to go through, just because the leftist board members like to have control and want to push the liberal agenda. This is typical bullying behavior, and it's no wonder there is a bullying problem in our schools, because our administration is rife with it. And that's fine with me. I'm still going to be part of that unimportant 25% who's going to keep speaking up for what's right. I'm going to keep recommending books to you, and I will also be contributing to all that wasted time rehashing those same old things. I know everybody's really tired of listening to us, but I'm going to keep coming. Anyway, I hope you don't cut out public speaking time, but that's, if you do, you do. But it's just more evidence that you're corrupt. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Larry Morgan from 7975 Bridgeford Road. In 2001, following the attack by terrorists, you couldn't go down most any road in this country without seeing signs that said, "God bless America," and "In God we trust." Well, fellow Americans, we're under attack again, only this time largely from within. Many of our own school board members have been infecting our children with curriculum trying to promote and normalize homosexual behavior, grooming vulnerable and impressionable children with insane lies to believe that they can change the gender that God made them. Content that subtly and purposely stirs racial tension. It's inappropriate and encourages activism of only left-leaning causes politically. There's a book entitled The Bluest Eye, for example, and it has detailed description of a father repeatedly raping his own daughter. This book includes bestiality and vivid sexual situations. Another book called Transphobia, Deal With It promotes sex changes and is not actually subtle at all. Finally, I know of a book called Right Now it's called Right Now for kindergarten through 5th grade children. And it tells kids that doctors can make a mistake at birth and assign the wrong gender. This evil is being promoted in spite of God's laws that forbid adultery and make it clear that sodomy is one of the sins that cry to heaven for vengeance. The enemy within tries to pose as righteous by pretending to be compassionate to someone that is afflicted with what only a few years ago was known as a disorder. True compassion would be to advise someone with mental health issues to seek psychiatric help from someone that could explain the truth. A man cannot become a woman. Logic and science confirm this. A child cannot become an animal called a furry. It's long past time that we the people defend our precious children by removing any employee of ours in the education field that seeks to indoctrinate these lies. It's so obvious that it's wrong and evil. Why do you think they hope to keep it secret from the parents? Some educators have become so arrogant as to believe they know better than us what is right for our own children. I have multiple properties in Mentor, and good schools are important to me, but this isn't just about Mentor. This is about our country. I beg you fellow Americans to object to this absurdity and purposeful confusion that is likely part of the cause of increased mental problems linked to school shootings, drug use, and sexual promiscuity. Demand that these books be removed along with this insane doctrine altogether, and if any board member under our employ refuses, they must be removed too.
Mrs. Cook, Mrs. Jessling, and Mrs. Marchaza continue to hide important information from the public. Not only have they violated the Open Meetings Act several times, they continue to take away the voice of the public in order to further their agenda. At the last special meeting, they argued against the request to place another bonus and raise for Mr. Heath on the agenda of the regular board meeting where the public can speak just 1 week later. I assure you, fighting against the taxpayers' right to speak is not going to fare well for you when you go to ask for a levy. Remember, it's our money you keep spending. There continues to be negative rhetoric from board members about people who don't have kids in the system that speak up. I've got news for you. The majority of the tax dollars that support this school are from people who don't have kids in the system. We make up 70% of your revenue. There is no taxation without representation, and until you quit taking our money, you will continue to hear from us. You three talk about safety like it's a real priority. but you want to take away a policy that protects children from sexually explicit materials, you're admitting to everyone that we have no standard and that we do possess graphic, sexually explicit, harmful materials available to minor children. There's no harm in retaining the policy, but potential harm in removing it. There's also a future legal liability that you may face due to pending House Bill 556. In 7 states, bills have passed that could cause possible criminal prosecution of school and library personnel and thousands of dollars in fines for providing sexually explicit, obscene, or harmful books to children. Ohio's House Bill 556 would allow this. Current law in Ohio exempts school personnel from prosecution for pandering obscenities to minors. Since school boards continue to vote to retain sexually explicit books for students, the state is now going to step in and help you do your job of protecting children. If you truly want a safe environment for all children, sexually explicit material should not be allowed in our schools, especially given to children by trusted adults. You 3 keep bringing up the 75% of survey respondents who were not concerned about books in schools. Did you give examples of the books that we have in our schools that are controversial or contain graphically sexual explicit scenes of rape and molestation when you asked the question in the survey? No, you didn't. You know people will be appalled. First, at the recommendation of Superintendent Heath, the board majority voted to retain sexually explicit books about molestation and pedophilia. Then you voted down the policy proposal to prevent having sexually explicit materials in school and setting a standard. Now you are voting to remove the simple notification process to flag books and make parents aware that some books may have sexual content or be harmful to children. You continue to show the public that this is an unsafe environment. You admit we have harmful materials, and when parents complain, you tell them that it's now your job to keep these harmful materials from the school's library out of your children's hands. Continue to retain this harmful material, and the next levy will fail. We will have an effort to ensure that it does. Thank you.